Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to video number 12 of our study through the book of Galatians. The section I'm covering today is Galatians chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. And before I begin in that, I want to give you a little recap of what we talked about on Friday. So we finished chapter 3 last Friday, talking about how everyone who believes and places their faith in Christ is one in Christ, and that we are, as Galatians 3 talks about, we are clothed with Christ when we have been baptized into His name and placed our faith into Him. That we also not only are we clothed with Christ, but we also receive the promise that was given to Abraham, and we also receive the promise that Jesus gives to us. And so we continue throughout this letter of what Paul is trying to do with defending the freedom that we have in the gospel. Remember that that's the main idea behind the whole book of Galatians, that Paul is defending the freedom that we have in the gospel, and he's continuing that argument today. So let me go ahead and begin by reading chapter 4 of Galatians, verses 1 through 3. This is what it says. What I am saying is that as long as an heir is under age, he is no different from a slave, although he owns the whole estate. The heir is subject to guardians and trustees until the time is set by his father. So also, when we were under age, we were in slavery under the elemental spiritual forces of the world. So right here in verses 1 through 3, this is what Paul is trying to say, that heirs and slaves are subject to someone or something, and so are we. Okay, so we are subject to something. We are in this slavery, just like heirs are and just like slaves are. We are subject to someone or something. But let's continue by reading verses 4 through 7. But when the set time had fully come, God sent His Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law, so that we might receive adoption to sonship. Because you are His sons, God sent the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, the Spirit who calls out, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but God's child. And since you are His child, God has made you also an heir. So what right here in verses 4 through 7, Paul is getting at the fact that Jesus Himself redeemed us from the law so that we could become adopted sons and receive the Spirit that He promised He would give us. And we are no longer slaves, but God's child. And how amazing is that to hear today, that we are God's children. I want to read to you something that I was reading out of a book this morning by Timothy Keller. He says this: "For a child of God, there is confidence and boldness every day. We don't walk in fear of anyone or anything. Our Father owns the place. He owns us. God will honor us as He honors His one and only Son. We live with heads held high. Our sonship removes the fear of missing fulfillment or losing approval that is at the root of much of our disobedience." So right here, this is something that you need to hear, that when you realize you are a child of God, it changes your identity. It changes who you think you are and what you do. When you know that you are loved and known and valued by the Father, you try your very best to love the Father back. And so this is what I want to encourage you with today, that you are loved by the Father and you are His son or His daughter. You are a child of God. And so what we should do with that is try and love the Father back today with our actions and with our speech. Whatever it is we can do today to show that we are known, we are valued, and we are loved by the Father. Do whatever you can do to try to show that to someone else, because that changes everything for you, that you are a child of God, that you have a new identity, that you don't have to worry about what anybody else thinks of you or what they say about you, but know that you are loved, you are valued, and you are known by the Father in heaven. And so what we should do is try to love the Father back with our actions and speech today. I love you guys. I hope you have a great Monday, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.